And we're back.
Welcome back, everybody, to the only podcast on the internet that dares to ask the deeper, probing questions like, why are the words that we use to describe deep and probing questions so icky?
Yeah, listen, that wasn't your best one.
That was not my best one.
That wasn't your best one. I had one.
Yeah?
We're the only podcast that has yet to see Melania.
Oh my God, you're absolutely right. I left it there. It was right there, and I failed to pick it up. God damn it. Well done, Chris.
And we're the only podcast that's yet to see Melania because we are doctors.
But not doctors.
Coming to you live in front of nobody here at our £1 billion studio in London, England. And once again, we have to start off our podcast with a safety notice.
Mm-hmm.
If you find yourself cooking or cutting anything with a sharp blade, pay attention to the blade and not to our malevolent tones.
Exactly. You know, it's all about priorities, people. You know, bottom level, listening to our podcast. Slightly above that, paying attention to sharp objects. Top of the heap, get that paper.
Voting.
Yeah.
Top of the heap,
yes.
voting.
Yeah, voting.
Your
Yes.
friends to avoid the hellscape that is currently the state of the United States of America.
Oh, Lord. But we're not talking about that just yet because
we're not.
Yeah, we're going to start off on this side of the pond. We have had some interesting things going on, I would say.
Yeah. This week, we're going to talk about Tory defections. We're going to talk about Starmer's trip to China.
Yep.
We're going to talk about what's going on in America with the shooting and the murder of Alex Peretti, another American killed by ICE. We are going to get an American arrested by ICE, Don Lemon.
Yep.
And also Trump's comments on America's currency, which should make you more concerned if you're an American.
Yeah,
and
maybe,
if you're not American.
If you got some investments or whatever, maybe you want to start paying a bit more attention to the madness that trickles out of that dude's mouth.
All that and much, much more starting right now.
Woo.
So, Patrick, I don't know if you watched the news.
Oh, I don't follow the news, Chris.
That's fantastic. You shouldn't. It's very difficult to get up in the morning and immediately flip on your phone or device and see that another conservative member of parliament has defected to the warm bosom of Reform UK Limited, the private company owned by, I guess, Nigel Farage.
Now that's absolutely shocking to hear. I mean, you would think that with such a robust ship sailing through calm seas as the Conservative Party of the United Kingdom is, that such defections would be rare.
That's the Conservative and Unionist Party to you.
Conservative and Unionist Party. I apologize. But yeah, so this person who defected, Chris, would we say that this is one of the intellectual titans of the party?
Well, I think she might think she's one of them. The person this week who's defected, making their 8th MP in Parliament, is Suella Braverman, also known as Cruella Braverman. That's not my words.
Yeah.
That's the word I leak of a Tory lord who is it just doesn't like her.
Well, I guess she knows where she's not wanted, Chris.
Yeah, and she definitely isn't there anymore. The Conservative Party was very not nice to her when she left, basically saying they coddled her during mental illness. Ooh. And they immediately retracted the statement that they put online.
Wait, I'm sorry. The Conservative Party as an institution put that out?
Yes, as an institution put out like, she is somebody who is a bit cracked, so we don't want her anymore anyway.
I mean, I feel like that's the kind of thing you say, or that you brief. It's not the kind of thing you put out a tweet about necessarily. Like, maybe the Conservative Party as an institution wants to rethink some of its social media strategies, if that's the case.
I don't know. I mean, so obviously the Conservative Party is having a bit of a moment with defections, and as a person who basically is going to be affected by that tangentially, the Reform is coming very close to the SNP's number, who I work and everything I say is not affiliated with them because it's my own podcast. They give me nothing for it.
Absolutely.
The number that they have is 8. That's Reform. They have 8 MPs and we have 9.
Right.
So 2 more defections, and they jump over us as the 4th largest party. And that's just the cruel realities of Parliament. And so they might get more stuff. We don't know. And what kind of gets me is that, this is all just Tory defections. But there have been relatively a lot in a short period of time of people coming from the Conservative Party to Reform.
Right.
And, the question is, Nigel Farage said, you have until the May elections to defect.
Right.
Once that's happened, I won't take anybody else. That's all horseshit. He will take other Tories after May. I mean, if Boris Johnson wants to jump on board, he's not going to say, sorry, Boris, you missed a boat. No, he's absolutely going to let people come on board.
I mean, it's interesting to me, though, because like I'm going to be uncharacteristically not nice here. And I'm going to say Suella Braverman does not strike me as like the biggest get from the standpoint of the Reform Party, right? Like she's a former minister, right? So she served
a former Home Secretary.
Former Home Secretary, right? So this is, she has served in high public office and is mostly known for not doing a great job at it, and also being profoundly disliked by a very large swath of the British public. So I mean, like it's not like she's a really popular person who's going to be bringing a big power base over to reform. It's much more like somebody who shot their bolts and burned her bridges and now is going to swan out to reform. Aside from padding the numbers, like what does reform get out of this? Reform, is my question.
I don't know. Okay, so basically reform is becoming very much a halfway house for angry and disgruntled former ministers who wish that they were the leader of the party and they just aren't.
Right.
Kimmy Badenoch being allowed to be a mean girl, I think is going to help the Tories more than it's going to hurt them. She had a press conference on Monday or Tuesday. I don't remember which day this week. And she was just brutal. I mean, this was definitely everything is fine press conference,
This is fine.
Nothing has gone wrong. Everything is fine. But the way that she was doing it was like, oh, these people don't know what to be. I don't even like them anyway. I never did like them. They're all trash. And you guys are good. And then she started listing people's names. It's one of those things where she kept on calling out people in the audience like, you're doing a good job, and you're doing a good job, and you're doing a good job. You only do that when you think you don't want anybody else to jump off the ship.
Right.
You're like, the ship is fine. The ship is fine.
We have purged the rot. And everything that's left is not rot.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're not rot. And you're not rot. Please don't go. You're not rot. Please don't leave. You're not rot. Please don't leave. Because there's all sorts of rumors about the Conservatives and like how much money they had to find to keep themselves going after the last election. I mean, are their funders drying up? Because obviously rich people want policies that keep them rich. And if they think that reform is going to be the next government, they're going to throw all their cash, which people have, behind reform. And the Conservative Party needs to find its little niche of, I can look after the rich people, but maybe we can't outright the right.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if they're there yet, though.
Basically it seems like what they might be able to pull off is a sort of like, socially moderate, but economically conservative sort of area, and then let reform have the socially batshit and economically illiterate vote, and sort of like let them have that. But how do you cobble together a majority without uniting those two factions? I don't know.
Yeah, the problem really is that the Conservative Party needs to find, like you said, this little sliver from these two factions, and people like Braverman and Jenrick, and there's a few others, like Chris Philp. I'm surprised that Chris Philp hasn't jumped ship yet. Chris Philp is another one of these guys. All these people, they've made their entire name and story about immigration. And here's the problem. Suella Braverman was the Home Secretary for a long time, right? Yeah. So when you say the system is broken, she spent her entire welcome to reform speech saying they wouldn't listen to me. I wanted to get us out of the ECHR. And we should bring this up and spend a moment on here.
Okay.
Her entire welcome to reform speech was about getting the UK out of the ECHR and how she tried. And Rishi Sunak basically said, fuck off. And
I mean, it's got to be a popular position to say that we in Britain have too many rights and we should probably get rid of some of them. That obviously that's a vote getter, if ever I heard one.
Like, don't worry, we're not coming for your rights. We're coming for their rights, but we are opening the book to all rights.
Exactly.
You can trust me. You can trust me. I'm a trustworthy guy. Putin was right.
In the same way that, sure, you may, own the title to your flat, but wouldn't it be just as good to have a lease? Wouldn't it be even better if you just had a contract that could be canceled at any time? Yeah. That's the same thing. It's the
same thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the same kind of security is there. So I mean, again, like they're putting their entire, I guess, new political lives, whether it be Jenrick or Braverman, or Rossendale, that was the other guy, Andrew Rossendale, on stuff that they've basically been trying to do for the past few years, which is, in essence, play to the anti-immigration, anti-brown immigration, really, political area. This whole, and increasingly becoming a Christian nationalist for the UK area, and say that, you know, we're going to keep things clean in the UK, we're going to keep things white in the UK. I mean, Suella Braverman won't say that, but she's going to have to soon. And, you know, no asylum seekers, no this, that, and the other. And I don't know how long it's going to work for them, because eventually she's going to have to stand up against somebody else. And each one of these people, by the way, would have said, if it was any other party, there has to be a by-election. In each one of these seats, because they're no longer voted for them. Yeah, because people voted for a party as well as for a candidate individually, right? And so because it's an excellent point. Why not give that choice to the voters? You know, and Nigel Farage was one of the very few. He was a person who actively believed that, you know, there should be by-elections. There should be by-elections if there's a defection. And I think the first UKIP MP that they had, which Farage was in charge of them at the time, was a guy named Douglas Carswell, I believe, and he defected in Clacton, I think.
I remember this. Yes,
it's either in Clacton or something by the sea. Don't forget. I don't remember specifically.
Well, I mean, that's Farage's Farage's constituency now.
And he won. Yeah, he defected to UKIP, resigned. Had a by-election and won, and then won in the subsequent election. So it's not impossible if you because there has to be some kind of political calculation. Right. That have you knocked on the doors? How many people are knocking on the doors are saying, I support reform in my constituency? If that number is bigger than 50% or 30% or 35%, I have to switch or lose my seat. Yeah. So, but that. Not to say that I, endorse what Braverman and the rest of them are doing. They are jumping on board with America, British MAGA. Yeah,
it's a profoundly toxic political movements from the standpoint of, freedom and democracy and equality and all that kind of thing. So I'm just an old lefty, I guess, who's in favor of things like freedom and equality and democracy, I guess. So, which those things are becoming more and more not fun for certain individuals. So that's what's happening with Suella. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks. We'll see how many more jump ship. I think it is an inevitability that they will get several more MPs. I don't know how Kimmy can prevent the kind of the leakage, because there's a lot of people in that party, in the Conservative Party, who are just saying reform things. There's that one Tory MP, I think her name is Katie Lamb. I will check on that. Okay. She's the one who said there's not enough white faces on television. Right. Yes, I remember.
So I mean, if you have your backbenchers talking like that, I mean, it's just a matter of time before they're jumping on board with reform, because you really shouldn't be saying that, because that's racist as fuck, right? Yep. That you're like, I don't see enough white faces on television. I'm all like, turn on the fucking television.
It's it's the same thing in the United States, right? Like during the Obama administration, you would hear online conservatives complaining that Cheerios is trying to force multiracial families down our throats by having a commercial with a biracial family with and it was in the 2010s that was a thing, and it was rare enough that it was news, and the response was this is entirely too many, we cannot have this. And we've seen what happened in the United States since that started being a thing. So if what we're sort of seeing is Britain slowly moving in the same direction as the United States, although hopefully learning the lessons of how that worked out for the United States before committing whole hog to insanity. It's the kind of thing where, if that becomes an accepted thing to say, and it's not actually a problem, and it's just another political stand to have to be a white supremacist or whatever, it does not augur anything good.
No, not at all. And I'm going to call. I think she's going to be the next one to jump ship. Yeah. Oh, yeah. She used to work for Suella.
All right. Well, she's already got people over there. Chris.
She's already got. They're setting up a desk for her. They're setting up a desk.
Yeah,
but she's trash.
Maybe a hot desk, but still.
Yeah. But yeah, it's. Let's move on to the next thing.
All right.
Check out that transition.
That's why they pay us the big bucks. People.
That's right. That's how we get the £1 billion studio.
We are professionals.
Yes. Moving on. We had other stuff happen in the UK this week.
Yeah.
Prime Minister went to China.
Now that
skipped PMQs, by the way.
Ooh, my God. How dare he not show up and give that scintillating performance for which he is justly famous.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's okay. So, and all joking aside, this, I think you were mentioning this before, and I absolutely agree with you. This should be understood as part of the great uncoupling between Europe, the rest of the West, and the United States. That ultimately every other country in the West confronted with a deeply unpredictable and untrustworthy and potentially dangerous United States under Donald Trump has now realized that flattery is not going to work. Appeasement is not going to work. It's time to start building bridges with alternatives and counterweights. It's time to start playing off both sides against the middle. I
think so. I mean, on Question Time, I happened to be at the BBC recently, and I was watching a bit of Question Time. And one of the first questions was, who should Kier Starmer be cozying up to, the U.S. or China? And I find that to be interesting for two reasons. First off, he should be cozying up to Europe, not either one of those. But two, why are the options right now?
Yeah.
A society heading towards competitive authoritarianism.
Yep.
And an authoritarian or totalitarian government.
Yeah.
Right? He should be cozying up to neither of these outside of overtures, outside of, what I think is happening now is, like you said, walk over there, be seen walking over there, have, favorable conversations, not bring up the massive human rights issues. Don't bring up, I think there's Jimmy Lai.
Oh, yeah. Jimmy Lai.
Who's political prisoners.
Yeah.
Don't talk about maybe they did. I haven't seen anything yet, but like keep all that to one side and just say, hey, listen, how about some free visa travel?
Right.
Which is what he got out of it for now. The 30-day, you can go, British citizens, I believe, will be able to go to China for 30 days without a visa, which is a really big deal.
I mean, there are a lot of British citizens who have family in China. They're going to be able to visit them much more easily, it would seem, and certainly there's business interests who are going to find that much more congenial for being able to go over there and, meet people in person. So, yeah, I'm not someone who thinks that visa-free travel is in any way a bad thing, right? What did China get in response is my question. Let
me see here. Looks like we're getting import taxes UK will have its import taxes halved for whiskey.
Okay.
The pharmaceutical giant AstraZeneca will get $15 billion investment in China.
Okay.
But it's a lot of small stuff. I mean, I get $15 billion of investment in China is not small, but we haven't hit big deal trade talk stuff yet.
Right.
But it's enough to put America effectively on notice, saying these people actually make all of our stuff.
Right.
And you guys are supposed to be our cultural partners. And we stick with you, America, because you're a democracy like we are, and we don't want to promote authoritarianism.
Yeah.
But if you're just going to go down that road, we might as well go with the guy with the cheaper stuff.
Yeah. It's a fair point, and it's interesting as well, because you brought up the European Union. And of course, there's been some big news for the European Union and trade recently as well. The European Union has now signed a massive trade deal with the Republic of India.
Okay.
And so now this is big, because this is creating a huge increase in the possibilities for trade between Europe, which is, collectively the second biggest economy in the world. Which is a hell of a thing. It's 500 million people live in Europe, right? So this is a developed market. It is a large amount of money that Indian exporters are now going to be able to access. Yeah. But also, Europe has now gained much, much easier access to sell European goods inside of India. And India is also a massive, massive market.
Of course.
It's not as wealthy on a per capita basis, but it's over 1 billion people. So there is an awful lot of money to be made on both sides by increasing trade like this. And this is interesting, I think, for two reasons. On the one side, India, since independence, has been very famous for having a very tightly regulated economic system, right? With lots and lots and lots of regulations, lots and lots of rules about how you are allowed to do things, huge trade barriers inside of the country between Indian states. In fact, not too long ago, there were huge demonstrations because the Modi government was reducing trade barriers in agricultural farm goods inside of the Indian market. So for India to be moving in a more free trade direction with Europe, this is big in terms of Indian politics and the Indian economy.
Well, yeah.
But it's also really big because I think it's another indication of the European Union saying, well, look, we need to move away from the United States. We cannot be totally dependent upon them. And that means we need to start finding new trade partners, setting up new ways of structuring our economy.
Yeah. But it also continues the work of isolating Russia and other countries like that.
Oh,
because India seemingly has very little qualms with working with Russia.
Yeah.
India in itself, while still a democracy, pretty wobbly.
Well, again, there's some competitive authoritarianism going on.
Absolutely.
Modi is the head of the BNP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is, kind of Hindu nationalist.
Yeah.
Kind of in bed with the RSS a little bit, So not great from the whole standpoint of not murdering Muslims.
Yeah.
So,
But it's also part of a bigger question, like democracy globally is definitely on its knees. All over Europe, you have powerful right-wing parties who, according to various emails, have all seemed to be know various Russians. They all met them around the same time.
What do you know? What a coincidence.
And those files that were released, which we'll also have to talk about today.
Oh, we're going to be talking about those
files. But, definitely you could see that, there's a weakness, and the weakness has been fostered. It isn't kind of inbuilt. It's been created and manufactured through things like Brexit.
I mean, Russia has been intervening in the politics of Western countries for decades. Like it certainly did it when it was the Soviet Union, but it never really gave up, I think, on the general idea of, well, no, this is in our wheelhouse. This is the thing that we do as, the independent Russian state. And there's been more than enough evidence, as well as rumor and suspicion about the Russian state being willing to spend money on British politics and European politics. There's been connections with right-wing parties. What was it? The Rassemblement in France, right?
Right.
Le Pen's party.
Yeah.
They were caught, I think, accepting Russian money. There were a bunch of influencers in America who
Reform UK.
What Reform UK? Exactly.
Their former Welsh leader. Got busted when he was an MEP. To taking money and spitting out Russian lines over Ukraine. This is not an unusual thing, but the point that I wanted to make is that I think that, again, as I said before at the beginning, the UK needs to turn back towards Europe, to turn towards these countries which are authoritarian, either in part or in full. It eventually will eat away at us. There's no way that you're going to, like, democracies by their very nature are complicated and convoluted. There are committees. And for every committee that you have, there's going to be a group of people. One person in that committee is going to be like, I don't like that for reasons. And they're going to slow everything down. That's not the case in authoritarianism. That's not the case in totalitarianism. I don't like that. Out the window you go. That's not a metaphor.
And the rest of your family. Not in Russia.
Right? Because it's easier to get stuff done when you're a dictator. But but staying in power obviously is a bit more complicated, given if you lose, you might not make it to the next day.
There is that. There's also the fact that if you, for those of you who are thinking to yourselves, God, democracy is so, weak. How can it possibly defend itself? I would encourage you to read a little bit on the history of World War II and consider the fact that, Hitler, Mussolini, the Japanese military that ran the country during World War II, these countries were absolutely able to do whatever the hell they wanted, whenever they wanted. And what they ended up doing was destroying themselves by doing dumb bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the democracies who, after a little bit of an initial trouble, ended up just absolutely whomping them.
Well, it's because
them and the Soviets.
Them and the Soviets. And the Soviets obviously switched sides.
They did too. And they also had some very considerable initial trouble. I think we can all agree.
Indeed, they did.
Yeah.
But again, it's what these parties tend to do, and you see them right now, is that you don't, we talked about it many times before, you don't fill your party with competent people, you fill your party with loyalists.
Exactly.
And those loyalists don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yep.
And so when they get into trouble, they just kind of look at you like a kid who just shat themselves. And you're supposed to clean it up, but the person who cleans it up is also a child who shat themselves. So you're surrounded by, self-shitters.
Yeah.
And it's all about this cult of personality, whether it be, the dear leader Farage, or whether it be Trump, or whether it be somebody else.
Yeah.
And
because you got to believe someone knows what the fuck they're doing, right?
Like, how could they be that powerful and get that ahead?
Right. If they're not.
If they didn't know what they were doing.
Exactly. They must be geniuses. Look how everyone talks about how smart they are. See also Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Yeah. We did not mention in our thing about the Epstein Files, which came out on Friday, but we will talk about those.
We're getting to him.
In just
We're getting to
a
that.
minute. We might go a little bit long because of 3 million files.
Well, look, we're reviewing them as fast as we can.
Yes. But on that, I think we should take a break here and bring you a message from our friends at Samosas and S'mores.
Oh, absolutely. They're the only people that sell deep fried samosas filled with marshmallow, chocolate, and lamb.
Get yours at the stores today. See you soon. And we're back. We hope.
I'm talking over you. I'm so sorry.
Oh.
I know. Do you want to take that again?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're doing it live.
100% always telling the truth. Truth Teller Network.
That's
brother.
True. That's true.
And there's another reason.
Yep.
Okay. We've lost the plot.
Yeah.
And we're back.
Okay.
It's been a wild week in the United States of America.
Yeah, just a bit.
As it always has been. And it's a shame, really. I mean, for all the jokes and stuff that we say, it's like it's really hard to watch. Obviously, because we're from there, and that matters. If I was to watch this in a country I'd never been in before, I'd have a much different perspective, as we all would. But you hope that people are taking note and not just shrugging along with their day.
Yeah. It does seem like there's been a bit of a turning point, at least in terms of the vibes of the United States. So now there's been, obviously, we should address the elephant in the room. We should get right to it. In Minneapolis, at one of the protests against ICE, a nurse by the name of Alex Peretti, who worked for the Veterans Administration, doing things like helping maimed soldiers to walk with prosthetics, who was a legal gun owner, who had, the necessary paperwork and registration to be able to carry a concealed weapon, was acting as a legal observer, videoing ICE. At the time, he had a gun on him. Again, he had the legal and constitutional right and was following all proper regulations. He was not brandishing it. It was tucked away. It was out of sight. But so he is filming ICE pepper spraying a woman. He goes over to the woman to help her and say, "Are you okay?" The ICE agents grab him. I'm sorry, I keep saying ICE. We're not certain exactly who they worked for because they wear masks and they don't like to identify themselves. I think the current thinking is that they may have been Border Patrol. But so the armed agents of the state, several of them grabbed him, tried to wrestle him down to the ground. He was carrying nothing but his phone. While he's on his hands and knees, one of the agents recovers the gun from him, shouts gun, backs away with the gun. So, Alexander Peretti is now 100% disarmed. There's no doubt about it. Both of his hands are on the ground. He is not threatening anybody. He cannot threaten anyone. At this point, the agents of the state unload 10 bullets into him and kill him dead. They fire into his back.
Yeah.
This is caught on video from multiple angles. There is no doubt. There is no rational or reasonable argument for understanding this as anything other than the execution of an American citizen by agents of the state while he posed no threat and while he was engaged in constitutionally protected activity.
Yeah. And of course, the first thing to come out of the Trump administration upon the hearing of this person's murder was that he was an assassin.
Yeah.
Stephen Miller declares this person an assassin, and that effectively he deserved to die.
That Greg Bovino, who is the who was at the time the head of ICE operations in Minneapolis, said that he was there to massacre law enforcement and that the agents fired defensive shots into his unarmed back. Kristi Noem also announced that he was a domestic terrorist who was engaged in violence. And they did all this despite the fact that already video was circulating online showing that all of that was a lie.
Yeah, they tried to grab control of the narrative as quickly as possible, but everybody who deals with ICE or has ICE in your neighborhoods, immediately phones come out if you're any decent kind of person.
Yep.
Because ICE has their phones out. Rumor has it those phones for ICE are actually used to be facial recognition software to go into various databases, whether or not you are an immigrant or whether or not you're an American citizen. And some of those databases, according to rumor, are effectively domestic agitator / terrorist databases.
See, now you keep saying rumor, Chris, and I think we want to clarify that just a little bit. That particular rumor, if I'm not mistaken, got started because a woman who was filming ICE and or Customs and Border Patrol asked, "Why are you filming me?" And they said, "Congratulations, now you're on the domestic terrorist watch list." Right. So, I mean, this is...
that guy could have just been saying it to mess with her.
Could have been saying it to mess with her.
But I wouldn't put it past MAGA to have a, agitators watch list of people who they want to fuck around with.
I mean, there are calls from the MAGA side of things for Donald Trump to invoke the Insurrection Act.
Yes, there are.
And end constitutional government altogether. So, they'd probably be okay with that. They're certainly okay with the execution of American citizens for, saying things they don't like. And they're okay with the building of concentration camps. So
I think we need to talk about this Insurrection Act just for a second.
Yeah.
Because the staging that they were trying to make, this is Bovino, this is Noem, this is Miller.
Yep.
They were using phrases that made it sound like there was massive instability in Minneapolis. He was an assassin, a terrorist.
Yep.
They kept on trying to put the idea in the minds of the American people that that Alex Peretti was basically this stormtrooper who was like a villain in a movie walking around.
The Antifa super soldier himself.
The Antifa. I think they were trying to make him the Antifa super soldier.
Yeah.
So they could try to declare an insurrection in Minneapolis. Now, here's in Minnesota. Now, here's an interesting thing that I heard on LBC.
Yeah.
ICE and the CBP, that's the Customs and Border Patrol, they're all over Minnesota, which is really interesting. Minnesota is a border state.
It is.
With Canada.
That's true.
Which people aren't even talking about.
Yeah.
No one cares about people crossing that border. Because there are definitely no drugs coming across the Canadian border. Wink, wink.
I mean, there's probably poutine. Probably got some poutine.
No, there's stuff happening at the Canadian border. We just don't
chips
care.
And gravy, man. Gotta watch out for that. Yeah.
Curds. But there was something like 57,000 potentially illegal immigrants in Minnesota. Apparently, there's 2 million in Texas.
Yeah.
So, and you don't see any of this happening in Texas. You don't see this massive invasion of ICE into Texas, even though that would make the most sense.
Yeah.
If you were the Trump administration trying to round up as many people as humanly possible, go to the Home Depots, go to the 7-Elevens, as Stephen Miller wanted. And yet here we are going to a state with tens of thousands of potential illegal immigrants. And it's almost impossible to see how they're not trying to create the environment to suspend our rights.
Yeah. No, this is the thing. Like, this is, if you think back to how the 2024 campaign was run, Donald Trump made the claim again and again and again that they were going to go after the worst of the worst, the criminals who were illegal aliens, people who, and let's be absolutely clear about this, right? If you are an undocumented immigrant in the United States, and you commit a crime, you are absolutely someone who can be deported from the country. Yeah, like from a legal standpoint, that's just how that works. That's so obvious it shouldn't even need stating, right? So the idea that there was just this huge number of undocumented people who were also huge criminals, who had been like to prison and all that, and then just kind of let go and like, well, see you next time. That was always crazy. Like it was always crazy to think that that was the case. And if there were people who were violent criminals who also had no documented status and who were not repatriated, presumably that would be because their home countries are deeply unsafe, and sending them back, there might be a death sentence. And that's not a thing that, liberal democracies can do.
Should do.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those situations basically where they had to invent a problem. And then having invented the problem and gotten in power on the basis of the claim that they were going to solve it, they immediately moved from, well, no, we're going after all illegal immigrants, every last one. And a lot of people were like, wait, what the fuck? And then it became, oh, yes. And also we're going to make a bunch of legal immigrants illegal by revoking their status. Yeah. And now we're going to go after them. Yeah. And then it became, and now we're just going to kill American citizens when we feel like it. And you should just obey.
And you should just be okay with that.
Because, and this is now where the administration is. They're literally saying, if only Alexander Peretti had just obeyed, if only Renee Good had just obeyed, if only they just done what the masked armed agents of the state had told them to do, then they'd still be alive today. And it's just like, what exactly, in your opinion, you guys, did Hitler do wrong? Like, I want a list. I want to know exactly what you think he did wrong.
But here's the issue, though. You're walking up against, I think, a wall for a lot of people because Trump. I'm sorry. It wasn't Trump. It was Scott Bessent and many other Trump MAGA officials. Basically declared that Alex Peretti messed up because he brought a gun to a protest. Now, if you hear the irony in my voice about MAGA being upset about people bringing guns to protests, starting at January 6th. Yep. And then you're ending at Kyle fucking Rittenhouse, Captain Crybaby on the stand after murdering a whole bunch of people, two people at the at a Kenosha, Wisconsin protest during 2020. So if you remember that guy, Kyle Rittenhouse, who was a MAGA hero, who was dragged all over the stage on Turning Point USA.
A guy who, let's be clear, also was carrying an illegal assault rifle to a protest.
Across state lines.
Yeah, across state lines. And with it would certainly appear the intention of placing himself in a position where, he might have to fire in self-defense, wink, wink. Yeah. That this is, if that's okay, if you're okay with that, right? Yeah. But you're not okay with someone who is following the law in every regard, not brandishing a weapon, not a threat to anybody, and engaged in constitutionally protected speech, but that person could be killed. Then you are not actually in favor of gun rights. You're not in favor of rights. You're in favor of the state being able to kill people you don't like.
Yeah. And there's obviously people in America who believe and follow that mantra. But when it's not the NRA, apparently. The NRA has come out not against what's happened, but saying we need to cool our jets until we figure out what's happened. Right. Which is a huge place for the NRA to be. If you know their history over the past 5-10 years, the fact that the NRA wasn't, because they cannot be full-throated behind the killing of, frankly, a white man with a legal weapon who got killed by theoretically other white men with for spurious charges. Because we are talking about Peretti and we're talking about Renee Good, but ISIS killed 9 people in 2026. This is from last week.
Yep.
A person named Keith Porter, who was a black man, a Cambodian named Peretti Law, 5 Latinos, Heber Sanchez Dominguez, Victor Manuel Diaz, Luis Beltran Yanas Cruz, Luis Gustavo Nunez Ceres, and Geraldo Luna Campos. So they've killed 9 people this year. And unfortunately, we're only really talking about the last 2.
Yeah.
Renee Good and Alex Peretti. Because that's crossed the line into... I talk about the circle of politics. I don't know if I talked about the circle of politics.
I think it's come up once or twice. And so,
you got that dot in the center of that circle. And that's you, right?
You are here.
You have a line not too far away from you, a circle. That's your friends, your close friends, your family. And I mean, very close friends, people that you talk to more than once. But, you know, and then you have a much wider circle of acquaintances, people that you may care about. But if their house burned down, you might give them some money. And then if they're not inside one of those 2 circles, they're not there.
Right.
And what's happened with Peretti and with Renee Good is that you just crossed into that second circle. You're now into acquaintance territory. People know a Renee Good. They know an Alex Peretti, right? Even
they can identify with them, even if they're sort of white centrist dads, you know, who are otherwise unconcerned with politics as anything other than like, that show that I watch, you know, on every once in a while. So, okay. You mentioned that the NRA is in a weird situation, right? Because they've had to deal with the fact that so many gun owners who are white are looking at Alex Peretti and saying, oh, no, that could be me. That could be me, actually. I don't want to get shot. I don't want people to think that they could kill me just because I'm packing heat. Like, that can't be right.
Yeah.
And I think I have real evidence that, there is absolutely a racial component to this. Because I'm going to mention a name from several years ago, Philando Castile. So Philando Castile was a black man who was driving with his girlfriend. He was a lawful gun owner. He had a gun in his car. He had the requisite license to have that. He was following the law in every regard. So he's pulled over by the cops, shockingly. And the cop asks him, you know, do you have a gun on you? And Philando Castile says, yes, I do. And it's in the glove compartment. And I'm going to reach in the glove compartment. I'm going to get my ID and show you. So he opens the glove compartment, and then the cop shouts, gun, and then shoots him dead.
Right.
So if you are someone who believes that the Second Amendment means that everyone has a right to bear arms and that right shall not be infringed, and you think that that's a good thing for society for reasons that escape me, but, you know, might make perfect sense to you, then you would look at this and say, oh, the cops literally killed a dude who was following the law simply because he was a gun owner. I'm a gun owner, and I think that's bad, and therefore we should probably, you know, make sure that doesn't happen again. The NRA was notoriously silent about this. Yeah, it just was not a problem for them from anything that you could sort of tell.
That's right.
Alex Peretti, this seems to be enough of a problem that they've had to break with the Trump administration, that they couldn't just say, oh, he was an Antifa super soldier, so that's that. It's broken through into that second circle, as Chris says.
Yeah, and because they can't create a negative a story about him, we will obviously keep our eyes on what's happening, and obviously in the next few weeks. But let's move on to something else horrible that's happened.
Hooray!
The arrest of Don Lemon.
Yeah.
Another thing, you wake up in the morning and it's like, and Don Lemon's been arrested. People were talking about it online. I didn't know what had happened yet. And then it's like, and that, because it happened at the same time as the Epstein Files were dropped.
Right. And so like, obviously that's gonna attract the attention. One might almost think that played a role in the timing in the first place. Possibly comment. So, okay, for those of you who are unfamiliar, Don Lemon was a journalist with CNN. He left CNN, I think, a few years back, right? And he's sort of been operating as an independent journalist.
Yeah, I think he left under bad circumstances, if I'm referring.
Yeah. And so I don't know enough about the circumstances to say anything useful on the topic. I'm not going to say I'm a Don Lemon stan, particularly. You know, dude on CNN, you know, but he's a journalist. He's an independent journalist, and that is absolutely a thing that you can be in the United States, right? So he he actually had an interview with Elon Musk that was delightfully batshit a little while ago. But more recently, he and his team were covering a protest that was happening in Minnesota.
Yeah, they had they basically invaded a church that several of the pastors were known or believed to work for ICE.
Well, I think one of the pastors was worked for ICE, and so they were the protest group was going into the church, and then they, in an organized fashion, stood up and shouted that, how can you claim to be a house of God while having this guy as one of your pastors? The purpose of it was to be disruptive.
It's a protest in a church.
Exactly. And I don't think we need to say anything about whether or not this is a useful or good protest tactic, whether or not it is rude or what have you. The legal situation here is pretty straightforward, right? Churches are private property. If you go on to private property and the owner decides they don't want you there, then they can absolutely tell you to leave. And, if they tell you to leave and you refuse to leave, then you are committing the tort of trespass. If you, forcibly remain, that can cross over into criminal trespass. Basically, you're talking like misdemeanor level stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's, and breaking the law in order to draw attention to your cause has a long and storied history in protest in the United States and other countries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's civil disobedience 101, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, what's happening, obviously, is, what happened was that Don Lemon was there along with another journalist who were reporting upon this civil disruption. And
they clearly identified themselves as journalists.
I think they were filming it as well.
They were,
So they identified themselves as journalists, and they were recording what was happening, as is their journalistic right. However, the government decided to arrest the individuals who were protesting, and then they wanted to arrest Don Lemon as well.
Yeah, and it's an interesting story there, right? So there are sort of two main ways that you can effect an arrest if you are if you're going to do that at the federal level. One of them is by providing what's called an information, right, to a magistrate. You go before a judge, you say, look, we have probable cause that this person's committed a crime. There's no time to go to a grand jury because this person is dangerous or whatever. And so we would like an arrest warrant so we can go and get them now. And then the magistrate judge takes a look at the probable cause, decides whether there is probable cause. And if there is, signs off on it. And if not, says, no, absolutely not. Go away. The other way is to get a grand jury, where you get like 24 people, and you say, okay, well, here's our probable cause. And if the grand jury agrees that, probable cause exists, then, you can get your arrest warrant that way, right? What's interesting is that with the people involved in this protest, they didn't go for the grand jury route. They went for the we have no time magistrate route, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and so the magistrate takes a look at a bunch of these, criminal complaints that they're filing and says, well, now, hang on, What? No, you're claiming that these people forcibly prevented people from exercising their religion in violation of one of the Ku Klux Klan acts.
Yes.
Like, that's absurd. Absolutely not. I think the judge throws out the charges against 5 of the 8 people that the complaints were brought against. And then amongst the 3 that remain, drops a bunch of the charges because there's no evidence for them. Yeah. So, and amongst the people who the complaints are thrown out for, that's Don Lemon, that's a journalist, right? Because this is constitutionally protected activity. You can't just do that. It seems that what happened was that the Trump administration, having had the district magistrate or having had the magistrate throw out the charges, decided to go to a grand jury anyway. There's an old saying in the law.
Yes.
A good prosecutor can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich. It is not hard. And if a grand jury does decide that your case has no merit, like what happened with the sandwich hero. That's a real indication that that the case is
dog shit.
Oh my God, just completely ridiculous. So if I'm Don Lemon and I'm his lawyer, And if I think that this is ever actually going to get in front of a judge, the first thing I'm going to do is say, look, this is clearly unconstitutional, infringements upon protected speech. This is clearly an animus against my clients. And you can tell this because, having had a judge throw out the complaint, they then went to a grand jury over this, even though they knew that they had no case. But I think the vast likelihood is that this is never going to get before this is never going to go to trial.
No,
the point of it is the point of it is the clicks. The point of it is the social media. The point of it is the chilling of constitutionally protected speech by forcing Don Lemon to, get arrested, pay for a lawyer, undergo all the cost and disruption of that. So that other journalists then say to themselves, "Oh, I maybe I don't want to speak up and report what's happening. Maybe I don't want to interview people who want to talk.
Don't take out your phone.
Yeah,
exactly. Unless you're the right kind of journalist, the right kind of reporter. You're Alex Jones. He's still out there. By the way. What they've done is, they found somebody that they knew that irritated the right and people on the left, kind of tolerated.
Yeah,
and they're messing with that person first. It's the Tester case.
Yeah,
right? It's clearly the Tester case.
That, that's right.
You were in the wrong place at the wrong time. So you need to go to jail. You need to be punished by the state because you're obviously on the wrong side of us right now.
Well, it makes sense if you're an authoritarian looking to expand your web of authoritarianism, right? You don't go after people who are super popular and have strong political backing to start with. You start off by going after people who are hated on your side and the other side doesn't really particularly hold a big brief for, so that way you can establish the precedent, right?
Yeah.
Don Lemon, I wouldn't say that he's I don't know if he's the darling of any particular group in society.
No,
per se.
Well, that's why he's doing his own thing. Right?
Yeah,
he's literally doing his own thing, and it's okay.
Yeah, no, it's quite legal to be a journalist.
Yeah,
that doesn't work for CNN. So.
Yeah, but he's on his own.
Yeah.
So we'll obviously keep an eye on that. See if this actually goes anywhere. Let's before we move on, I want to make one correction.
Okay.
I said that Katie Lamb said something like, "There's not enough white people on television."
Okay.
She didn't say that. Sarah Puchin said that. Katie Lamb said that she called for the deportation of legally settled families in order to make the UK culturally coherent around the same time that Sarah Puchin said it, just so she could get on television as well. So I want to make the correction that Katie Lamb didn't say there weren't enough white people on television. She said there weren't enough white people in Britain.
Right. Very different. Very different. I don't know how you could mix up those two, Chris.
I'm so sorry.
My goodness.
We strive for nothing but the most accurate depiction of these horrible people.
Well, and we thank you for your honesty, Chris.
Yeah, well, moving on. We have a few more things to talk about, and we don't want to be here too long because there's a pub waiting for us.
Exactly.
President Trump, Donald John, decided that he wants the ballots in Georgia.
Yeah.
The ballots from the 2020 presidential election because they're still trying to win that fight that they lost 60 times.
Yeah. 60 times 5 years ago, it turns out. More than.
So the FBI, I believe, raided Fulton County, the Fulton County Elections Office or something, and basically took, I don't know, a lot of the ballots from the election office for reasons. You didn't see me do air quotes there, but for reasons. And this is a huge story that isn't really getting reported on because of the final thing we're going to talk about, the Epstein Files.
Yeah.
And this is because the federal government has nothing to do with elections in America. There's no electoral commission like there is in the United Kingdom. It's all done by individual states, which is why the election of a Secretary of State is so important right now.
Right.
Because they're the ones who oversee elections across their state, which then affects elections across the country.
Exactly.
But the taking of these ballots is a huge overt signal that they're going to try to attempt to mess with elections somehow, because now that they have the ballots, people have said, well, they can now make them say whatever they wanted. However, Patrick pointed out something interesting with that.
Well, so the thing is, right, it's because the votes for representatives, for senators, and indeed for the president, none of these elections are run by the federal government. They're all run by the individual states. And that means that the counting is done at the individual state level. It's done at the precinct level. So in Fulton County, with the various voting precincts there, that's where all the vote collection would happen. That's where people did the voting. That's where the votes were counted. That's where everything was tabulated. And there is records and records and records and records and records about how that all happened, right? So if they're going to steal the ballots, or if they're going to take custody of the ballots and then take them away and then engage in skullduggery and find the 11,000 however many votes,
280,
which is one more than we need, as the president put it, while trying to overthrow democracy. If they do come back and say, oh yeah, we found all these extra ballots and what have you, I don't know, A, why anyone would believe them. B, there would just be no legal pathway for them to be able to say, oh, and that means that actually Donald Trump was president in 2021.
That would create this paradox where, let's say you did find the extra 11,280 votes that you needed to win, which means that you were technically the president, or you were supposed to be the president for your second term.
Except that let's keep in mind for a moment that like Joe Biden won in the Electoral College by the same margin that Donald Trump won in the Electoral College. Like it wasn't just Georgia. He would have had to overturn Georgia and like I think Arizona. Like there's quite a. It would have been a lot more than just one state.
More than just Georgia. But let's say their wish comes true and the Venezuela and Hugo Chavez from the grave alongside the reverse vampires.
Right. And the Italian satellites. Don't forget the Italian satellites, Chris.
All, with papyrus paper or something, changed these elections. Does that mean if he was president from 2020 to 2024 that he was ineligible to be president now?
Chris, you're assuming that law means things in America.
Yeah, but like it creates this paradox because they still need the law. They still need a legitimizing force. There's your big poli-sci term for this week. They need legitimacy.
Right.
That's what people still pretend to believe on their side, that I don't know, Trump might not be president for a third term, but because it's illegitimate as far as most Americans are concerned. A third presidential term is against the rules and against the law. It's illegitimate, and therefore your president would be an illegitimate president.
Well, that's to the point where if you saw that A24 movie Civil War that came out,
getting too close to home, I haven't seen it.
It's a good movie. It's like a whole movie's worth of panic attack, basically. It's so I'm not going to say it's a fun watch, but it's a good movie, But so at the very establishing scene at the very beginning of the movie, when you're sort of hearing news reports, letting you know the situation, the narrative shorthand for, the president's a dictator and that's why there's a civil war, is since starting his controversial third term.
Yeah.
Like that's the immediate narrative shorthand for, this man's a dictator.
Yeah. And what do these people do in competitive authoritarian situations, or even authoritarian situations specifically? They mess with ballots. They mess with elections.
Yeah.
Because they need the legitimacy of winning an election.
Right.
But it can't be seen that they're actively messing with it. But then they will go and publicly grab pallets, and they grab pallets full of ballots from Fulton County. That means, and also we didn't mention this during the Minnesota section, but the old guy, the person who was in charge of all the ICE in Minnesota across America, Greg Bovino, who I'll put it like this, really enjoyed the fashions of Hugo Boss in the 1930s.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it, Chris.
He got fired, and they brought in Tom Homan, who was the border czar, who took $50,000
in a kava bag. Yeah,
but that's not of anybody.
Noted crook, Tom Homan.
Nobody's supposed to care about that at all. He's like, we'll leave under certain circumstances, or we'll calm down under certain circumstances, because they're demanding all this information that they want to put into databases or get Peter Thiel and Palantir to work.
Pam Bondi literally said, we'll stop. Well, she intimated, we'll stop killing you if you hand over your voter data. And that, I think, is a real indication of like them attempting to rig the upcoming midterm elections, right?
Somehow declare them illegitimate.
Basically, yeah. So for them to, but you're right. Like, if you're a competitive authoritarian, right? You need democratic legitimacy. And you get that by winning elections, whether or not those elections are free and fair. And when that fails to happen, that's when you start seeing the regime start to lose some power. When Nicolas Maduro, for example, quote unquote won re-election. He had to have the electoral commission say, oh, yes, no, he totally won. He won hugely. No, you can't see the results.
No, we can't say what's happening there because everyone's like, he clearly lost. They're like, no, he didn't. Why? Get out.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Shut up. That's why.
Yeah. And in Iran, when Ahmadinejad, I think. So he...
there are no gay people in Iran.
Exactly, yeah. But so when he, I think one of his quote-unquote victories, right, they legitimately had to basically say, and we're just not allowing anybody to run who's not Ahmadinejad, screw you. So that was, I think, one of the real moments when the Iranian regime started running into real trouble, because if you're following Iranian politics recently, regime's not doing so well. No, it's not going great over there.
No, and America's sending over the armada of ships to help to observe.
Yeah, I gotta what's that armada going to do to keep them from killing protesters? I don't think a goddamn thing. What's going to happen, I think, is that they'll agree to pay Donald Trump some money, and then he'll agree to not kill a bunch of Iranian leaders. He'll pull a Venezuela.
I think we have our newest member of the Board of Peace.
You're right. Oh my goodness.
Right. Let's move on because we will be here for 2 days if we don't keep moving forward. There's a lot more we could talk about with this, but we just can't.
Yeah.
We have 2 more things we want to cover.
Let's get to it.
Let's talk about America's the dollar.
Ooh.
Sorry, America's the dollar. America presents the dollar. You may have heard of it.
Yeah.
A lot of the world uses it for trade.
Yeah.
And it's getting exceptionally weak over the past, I don't know, several weeks, months. Actually, ever since Donald Trump decided to destroy the American economy.
Yeah, ever since Liberation Day, it seems, there's been a really consistent slide in the value of the dollar. Now, the dollar, for the record, it is historically at a strong point. What's interesting is the trend. Yeah, but so, how to put this? Basically, the United States dollar has been the centerpiece of the global economy basically since the end of World War II, since the Bretton Woods Agreement in 1944, right?
Yeah.
Where from the end of World War II up until 1973, I think, when Nixon ends the gold standard, right?
Yeah.
The US dollar effectively for the non-communist countries is the basic reserve currency.
The medium of trade.
Exactly, right? And every other currency is valued against the dollar. And, how that valuation works is really important. Even after the abolition of the gold standard in the United States, the US dollar still maintains itself as the reserve currency. It is the safe currency. You can bet that it's going to maintain its value, and so
that's because the assumption that America is going to be there tomorrow. Currency strength is made of many things, but one of the most important ones is that they're going to be there tomorrow to pay their bills.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. That a Lannister always pays his debts.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's for the United States, its role since the 1970s has been to be, in a sense, the buyer of last resort. The United States imports just a huge amount of goods from the rest of the world. It pays for this by selling an awful lot of services, but also by having a lot of money flow into the country to invest in the United States. Because basically the way the currency exchange rates works, right, is that the value of your currency depends on what people are willing to buy it for in terms of other currencies. So if you're, selling a bunch of goods to the rest of the world, right?
Yeah.
Then that means that you're selling those goods. You're getting other people's currency for those goods. So to bring that money back home,
right,
you got to buy your own currency.
Yeah.
And you got to sell those ones. And so if you're running a huge trade surplus, you would expect that over time, without some kind of other force, that would cause your currency to appreciate, which would have the effect of making your exports less competitive because it makes them more expensive for everyone else to buy.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're running a huge trade deficit, right, where you're just, other people are selling your currency to repatriate that money to their home territory, well, that's going to drive down the value of your currency, right? So that would make imports more expensive. That would make your exports more cheap. And so you would expect to see a weakening of your currency.
Yeah.
And the idea is that there's an equilibrium, blah, blah, blah. This is not an economics blog. But so what's interesting then is that the United States has been in this interesting position of being a massive, massive importer, relying on cheap goods from the rest of the world and paying for them because so many people are interested in investing their money in the United States, buying dollars in order to invest in the American stock market.
Yeah.
So you have lots of companies in Britain, for example, increasingly not listing themselves on FTSE, but instead listing themselves on the NASDAQ, right?
Or the Dow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So America's been this massive financial center. All this money flows into the United States. There's a huge demand for dollars, both from private investors, but also from many state governments, countries around the world who want to hold dollars in reserve. Because if there's any trouble with the exchange rate, you want to be able to intervene. Because if you want to trade with the rest of the world, you don't want the value of your currency going up and down all over the place.
Yeah.
You can't plan. People can't make contracts and whatnot that are long lasting.
Yeah.
So you want some basic stability.
That stability, though, completely trashed on Liberation Day.
Yeah.
When Donald Trump decided to use what can only be described as preschool formulas to try to determine trade deficits with all the countries in the world is basically just take the amount of money they give us versus the amount of money that we give them and then subtract that and put it over some kind of dividend, and now it's a percentage, and now we have a trade deficit.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to start putting on just slapping tariffs across the world. People didn't like that because of that stability. And we've talked about it many, many, many times on this, because you're messing with money, and Americans, even the Supreme Court, doesn't really want Donald Trump to mess with money.
Yeah.
The U.S. dollar is hitting a 4-year low across, at least with the pound.
Yeah.
And
it's not because the pound's doing great, my friends.
And it's not because the pound is doing great, because the pound is only it's basically the pound's up 30% on the dollar.
Yeah.
But everything else is like maybe half of that. So when Trump was asked about like this decline in the U.S. dollar, he literally said, "Oh, that's great. Look at what our businesses are doing. That's great. It's great for trade." Because a cheaper dollar means cheaper American products. But who's buying American products?
That's a really good point.
Why would China be buying shoes from America?
Right.
It's the other way around.
I mean, it's one of those situations, right, where a lot of otherwise intelligent people looked at the Trump administration, I think, early last year and said, okay, well, what they're trying to do is to bring back manufacturing to the United States. And the way that they're going to do it is by weakening the dollar, making our exports more competitive, making imports more expensive, and therefore encouraging people to build stuff in America to sell to Americans, and encouraging people outside of America to buy stuff that's built by Americans. And that would rebalance trade. And there's a good argument to be made that the United States having such an outsized role as the financial center of the global economy and being such a massive, trade deficit nation, which is matched with China being a massive trade surplus nation, that this is, unhealthy for the global economy. There were problems with it. We probably want to move away from that kind of massive dependency. So a lot of otherwise intelligent people looked at Trump and was like, I could see a way that this might make sense and this might be a good idea. The problem for them, of course, was that they were looking at Donald Trump and just sort of making up an imaginary Donald Trump who would do smart things instead of the Donald Trump who actually existed, who was going to do stupid things. Yeah. So what we're not seeing is like a rebirth of American manufacturing. In fact, what we're seeing is a decline in American manufacturing. Like manufacturing jobs were increasing strongly under Joe Biden. Yeah. The American manufacturing sector was increasingly profitable and increasingly hiring people.
Yeah.
And, that's a hell of a thing because manufacturing in the United States is capital intensive. You don't hire a huge number of people to create a bunch of stuff because you've got so many machines. So if you are seeing hiring going on in the industrial sector, the implication is that, things are doing really well. with Donald Trump, it's been the exact opposite. They've been like losing jobs consistently for a year now. And
they fired the BLS chairman because of that.
Well, yeah. And the reason why this is happening, Chris, is that the United States doesn't just like make shit and sell it to the rest of the world. It imports a bunch of raw materials from the rest of the world and then uses that to make shit to sell to the rest of the world. So if you raise a bunch of tariffs and gank the value of the dollar at the same time, then that means that all those imports you need to make shit are way more expensive, which means you're not actually more competitive. And it doesn't matter that the dollar is dropped because no one's going to buy your shit.
It costs more money to import the raw materials.
And that's before getting to the fact that, like, who the fuck wants to buy American when Donald Trump just threatened World War III to seize fucking Greenland? Like, this is a pariah country. You don't want to do business with this country.
And you have no idea what's going to happen day to day. There's no stability. And finally, on this point, if you think that everything's fine, you'd think that we're a bunch of chicken littles or canaries. Well, we're probably more like canaries at this point.
We're chicken canaries. Chicken canary littles?
Little canaries. One thing that people may not be taking stock of is the price of gold and silver. Gold and silver, which are hedges against inflation, but also if you're a prepper, that's what we're going to be trading in. The price of gold and silver have skyrocketed during Trump's term in office. And it's who knows for what reason, but it's never good when people believe that things like the dollar are unstable. So around this time last year, gold costs about $2,803. Sorry, not about. I'm looking at a chart.
Oh, God.
$2,800. Now gold is sitting at $4,900 and has been as high as $5,500 over the past few weeks. Silver, which is normally nowhere near gold, and normally was trading at about during 2013, 2010s, it was trading at $9 an ounce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it is now trading, it has traded as high as $121 an ounce.
Not on.
And is currently trading at $85 an ounce. This is something that last year was trading at, $74, $72 an ounce. And even before, you're talking about $30, $40 an ounce.
So we are.
So something's happening. And it's definitely being affected by, messing with the dollar, but it's obviously also being affected by, a president who, is a completely unstable, dangerous person to have in charge of anything, especially as he's trying to get rid of the Fed chair and he wants to mess with interest rates, which Nixon learned was a terrible idea. And which brings us on to our final point of the day. This will not be a short, I don't think, but we'll see how far off topic we go.
We'll do what we can.
What do you think? Was it Friday? On Friday night? Friday night, the Department of Justice released 3 million documents from the Epstein Files.
Hooray! How many documents were in the Epstein Files, Chris?
9 million or something.
Seriously, this is they've released less than half of the outstanding documents that they are required by law, that was signed by President Trump himself, to actually release. So it is, and now the administration is claiming this is everything. Top Blanche is saying this is now everything. They've released everything that they can. Every other document, the other 3 million or whatever documents, just non-responsive, which is lawyers speak for. We don't think that this is covered by the terms of the law.
Wow.
Which I beg to differ with him on, because the law does not say that they have to release everything that they consider to be responsive to the law. It says that they have to release everything, everything that they have, with redactions only for very specific things like protecting victims, and not for doing things like protecting powerful people who would be embarrassed or who committed crimes.
The criming is huge here. I mean, the things that have come out from the files, Trump's name is in it over 3,000 times.
That's fun.
But of course, Trump says that he's completely absolved. Nothing has gone wrong. Some of these stories, in fact, one of which was so graphic, I obviously not going to put it into detail on the blog. But it disappeared from the website. It involved Trump, and it involved an underage person,
complainant,
a complainant, and it was so horrible to read.
Yeah.
And I mean, it won't take you long to find it. The file that disappeared, but it definitely, I can put it like this. If you know the details of the E. Jean Carroll case, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
On a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Now that was an accusation. The MAGA folk and Trump people will say that, these are all discredited and none of them are true. And why don't you talk about anyone but him? But we keep on forgetting that, they were best friends and they were tight. And there was another email in there.
Yeah.
A draft email Epstein apparently sent to himself regarding one Bill Gates.
Ah, yes, I've heard about this.
The Bill Gates email is wild, and Bill Gates is like, I kind of don't want anything to do with you. And Epstein basically was writing back saying, if I were you, I would definitely not cut ties with me and keep paying me money, or else I might have to tell people about what you got up to on my island. But I wouldn't be like that. If I were you, I'd be afraid of somebody doing it, but I wasn't doing it. I'm not going to do it myself. But I'll tell you what I'm going to do. If you wanted me to give your wife a secret pill. I mean, it was wild.
That's the thing. Like, what's really interesting here is that this very much reads like a Jeffrey Epstein, kind of working out how he's going to blackmail Bill Gates, and extorting him. Interestingly enough, not over sex with children, but over
just extramarital affairs,
extramarital affairs, and also you got a sexually transmitted disease, and you apparently wanted medication to deal with this, and also you couldn't go to your normal doctor, and so I got it for you, and I could tell your wife about all this.
So you need to get back on board, and they did get back on board.
Yep.
I think Gates funneled $2 million through Epstein to some charity.
Yep.
So obviously, that thing did happen, but we don't know about the thing that Epstein wrote to himself because it was never apparently sent.
Exactly. So,
but these files show a lot of people who declared that they had nothing to do with Epstein all of a sudden have in their own from their own email accounts explaining how close they were to him and how desperate they were to get on that island.
We now know a bunch of people were lying. And we should mention, I think, a few of them.
Yeah.
One of them is Howard Lutnick.
The economy is doing great.
Yeah. So, he's Howard Lutnick. What a guy. So he went on to a podcast, a friendly podcast recently, was asked about the Epstein Files. And he said he was the Epstein's neighbor in New York from 2005.
Was it New York or was it Florida?
Wasn't it? Oh, I thought it was New York. Maybe it was Florida, actually.
Oh, he was his neighbor.
Yeah, he was definitely his neighbor. I'm sorry for not knowing which state this is. But billionaires, they're all over the place, man. But so we do know that Lutnick lived next to Epstein from 2005, certainly up through 2008, when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested the first time, for the whole having sex with children thing.
Yeah.
So, and Lutnick was asked, what he knew. And so he said, the only time when I went over to his place was in 2005. Me and my wife went over there. It was a social visit to meet the new neighbor. And we noticed a massage table in the middle of the living room. Right. Yeah. And we were like, who has a massage table in the living room? And he was like, I get a massage every day, the right kind, if you know what I mean. And then my wife and I looked at each other and we both said, we have to go. And on the way back home, we said to each other, I am never going to be alone with that man again. And that was the end of that, he said.
He said.
And then the Epstein Files got released a little bit more. And Chris, would you like to walk us through what they showed?
Yeah. So as you recall, the Lutnick and his wife said, never again. We walked in once and they both proudly walked out hand in hand, stating that they will never be in the presence of such a horrible person.
Never.
Yeah, 2012. Lutnick was writing, I think Lutnick the man was writing to Epstein saying, we just we're on our private yacht and we were cruising past the island. Hey, you around? Maybe we could dock up sometime.
What's the exact location so I could tell my yacht captain?
Yes. Yeah. Can I get your coordinates so our yacht captain can birth at your private crime island.
Yeah.
And the wife who was like, we can never see this man again.
Yeah.
She also sent an email saying, hey, listen, you're the greatest. I am paraphrasing. But, they were basically, they claimed that they don't want to ever see him again. And this is something that CoffeeZilla said. He's like, you could recall a 2003 conversation. 2005 conversation, word for word.
Yeah.
That you looked at each other's eyes in a moment of pure understanding and love between yourself and your partner, and you stopped from going over there.
Yep.
Yet in 2012 and 2013, you don't remember that.
Yeah.
You can't recall that fact that you were on your yacht, that you commanded your yacht, which means that, if the information was given, then it would have had to have been logged.
Yeah.
So this is the thing. Like, none of these people ever thought it would come out, like Elon Musk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Here we have another example. His official story that he's told everyone was that, Epstein had begged him to go to his island. And he was like, no, I'm not going to your island. Like, I know you want me to go, Jeffrey Epstein, but I'm not going to your island.
I'm too good for that.
Exactly.
I'm never going to go. This is disgusting that you've asked me.
Right.
You're a criminal, and good day, sir.
Right. And then the Epstein Files got released a little bit. And it turned out that was not quite the case now, was it? In fact, one might go so far as to say, Chris, it was the literal opposite, where he was like, hey, Jeffrey Epstein, I'm going to be in town in the Virgin Islands, and I want to come hang out at your party. And I've been working really hard, so I don't want to have like a calm night. I don't want like a normal calm night. I need to like a really wild night. So, can we have a really wild night when I come over to your house, Jeffrey Epstein, on Little St. James Island?
Yeah, that, again in 2012, by the way.
Yeah. So this is 4 years after it was known he was a pedophile, people.
Yeah, but and the same with Lutnick. That also happened around the same time.
Yep.
And he basically is like, can I please come over? Now, what was really sad about the entire, there's obviously the true victims there, but what was sad about this for Elon is like, he's like, I'm winding down the party. Sorry, buddy. It's all over. You've missed the boat. I know you're he was like, I think him and his wife, I think Musk and his wife at the time were trying to get into like his private island crazy, Diddy party on fucking steroids. But yet here we are. That's two of them.
This is the one and only thing I will say about Jeffrey Epstein that humanizes him. And I'm going to say it right now. I understand why he doesn't want to hang out with Elon Musk. Like
I didn't want to hang out with Elon Musk.
Didn't. You're right. I get that. And that's the one human thing I will say about that monster. And Elon Musk, on the other hand, now that particular monster. He really wanted to hang out with the pedophile, and the pedophile shot him down. One time at least.
Womp womp.
Yep. And then he lied about it to everyone. And, honestly, kind of feel like we should start asking some very serious questions about this ketamine-addled moron,
Yeah, because there's obviously more stuff we could talk about with Elon. We're not going to do that at the moment, specifically that Doge was leaking information to someone.
Yep. Americans' personal information, just handing it out. So that's great.
There's that.
But
yeah, again, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor winds up in these things. And I think that...
The Guardian has a very striking picture that has been released of him looking almost feral as he leers over the body of a young woman. Don't know how young.
Yeah, of just somebody. The problem is that, we have no idea what the context is, but it doesn't look good.
Nope.
The problem, more or less, is that he's now lost his royal protections, and Starmer is saying that he should go to the United States and talk to Congress.
Testify under oath, yeah.
Now, here's the other issue. If he was to go to the United States, do you think he's ever leaving again? Because don't they want to, they want to question him in the States. So as soon as he touches down at any airport, the FBI theoretically will be there. And if I'm Trump and I know that Kash Patel will do whatever I say, right?
Yeah.
You are arresting him as soon as he lands, right? Unless you want to parade him in front of the world's media saying, look at this big fish that we're catching, ignore the giant fish in the White House.
Yeah.
Like, this dude is being set up to be the big hit if they can't get Bill Clinton.
Right.
Because I mean, they're trying to link everybody to Epstein. Apparently, like Mom Donnie is they're trying to link Mom Donnie to Epstein because his mom apparently was at a party once.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
This is again, I've seen it like there's like emails apparently with his mother, who was some kind of director. I'd have to look into this even more.
Okay.
But again, they're like Diana Ross is on the island, right?
Right.
We saw pictures of that. We know that, right?
No. Diana Ross.
She was at a party.
She was at a charitable function. At which Jeffrey Epstein also was.
Yeah.
Which is not the same thing as going to Little St. James.
That's right. Yeah.
And hitching up your yacht to have a wild nights after Jeffrey Epstein sends the heli for you.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And so we don't know the context for a lot of people in pictures and, errant misspelled emailed here and so many misspelled.
Oh, my God. Like, did you see how he spelled misogynist?
No.
Like, it was like MYSOGINST. Like,
oh, wow.
Like, just really like flat out like, oh, you don't know how to spell.
You don't know how to spell or read. That's sad.
Yeah.
But they're trying to scoop up all these other people in there. And obviously in the ultimate tool of distraction against Trump, who the things that people called into these lines, these tip lines, and the things they were saying. I mean, these are the most egregious. These would be this is like, if you remember how crazy the world got over Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah,
He got impeached over that.
Yeah.
This is orders of magnitudes worse.
Oh yeah.
And yet Trump is trying to hand wave this away, and his most loyal lackeys will hand wave this away.
Yep.
I don't see how this goes away forever. The government is trying to say that's all of them. Shut your mouth. That's it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, if they're gonna play that card, they need people to trust them, because what they're saying is, trust us. We've released everything. Anything that we're holding back is just not important. It's not responsive. It's absolutely fine. And the thing is, we know that they have lied. We know that they have redacted information that they had no legal basis to redact. We know that they've redacted the names of people who helped commit crimes with Jeffrey Epstein. We know that they told us that there were no people helping Jeffrey Epstein, that there were no Epstein. There was no client list. There was nothing like that. And it turns out there absolutely was. We know that they have failed to do redactions to protect victims repeatedly. So we know that the redactions they're making are not purely to protect the victims.
Yeah.
So we know that they've lied. We know that they've broken the law. We know that they are untrustworthy. If what they have released is not directly confirming of Trump committing crimes, then the only reasonable thing to say is, well, we need to see all the other files before we're willing to say that there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Because we cannot trust them, because look at what they've done. Like, if someone burns down your apartment when they were supposed to be, dog sitting for you.
Yeah.
And then, they're like, dude, I really need to crash at your place. And also, you should pay me so I can look after your dog. And then you say, dude, you burned down my flat last time I let you watch my dog. That wasn't great. I didn't like that, and I don't want that to happen again. And they're like, well, why are you being such a dick? Maybe stop being friends with that person. Is what I'm saying.
Maybe you don't call that person to help you out anymore. But yeah, it's a hard lesson for a lot of people to learn. Abusive relationships do happen.
Oh God, they do. They do. Just not normally with nuclear powers.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with the with this list and these files. Obviously, there's more, and we'll see how far the U.S. MAGA government can go in protecting the leader.
Yeah.
In this way. But I think we have covered as much as we can today. We have spent a lot of time, and hopefully no more injuries. There's obviously so much more we could talk about, such as, have you noticed there's no more drug boat bombings?
They did one more after Maduro
really?
got caught. Yeah. No, they but it's really slowed down. All the murder on the high seas has slowed down quite a bit.
It's gone to nothing. There's no more drug problems.
Yeah,
it's all for fentanyl. No more fentanyl in America. And obviously, I think in the next episode we should talk about Manchester, the Manchester by-election coming up, because it's turning out to be a lot more complicated than we thought it was going to be last week. no Zia Youssef, no Andy Burnham, no Zach Polanski. So
it's interesting stuff.
Very interesting stuff. So
let's leave off with some interesting news that I'll just mention. Because you may find it interesting. So there was in Texas, there was an election to I think a state Senate seat, right? Yeah. So, and this is a district that was deliberately drawn in the new gerrymandered maps to be Trump plus 17, right? Where the voters in this district favored Trump over Kamala Harris in the 2024 election by 17 points. Safe, deep red. The Democrat won.
Yeah.
The Democrat won by 14 points, I think, something like that.
14 points.
14 points.
And it's in a seat specifically designed for MAGA.
Yeah. Now, and you may be thinking to yourself, well, okay, but the guy probably just outspent the Republican. That must have been what happened.
Yes.
No. He had like less than $400,000 raised, and she had over $1.2 million. So she outspent it by a factor of at least like 3 to 1. And also, Donald Trump explicitly put out several messages on social media saying, get out there and vote. Make sure you vote. Dan Patrick, was saying, get out there and vote. All the Republicans were just saying to all the Republicans in that district, get out and vote. And then they didn't. And
then they didn't.
Yep. So, if you are a Republican congressman looking at November of 2026, you might have some questions to ask yourself about how did you end up here? Where is this all going? Is there an off-ramp perhaps? And, maybe Donald Trump isn't the guy you want to tie your life to at the moment.
Maybe. But again, it takes a long time to learn how to get out of an abusive relationship.
It sure does.
You have to learn all sorts of new patterns.
Yep.
But for us, I think that's going to be it. And as always, I'm Dr. Silverstein.
I'm Dr. Armstrong.
And we are doctors.
Not doctors.
Good night.